Nikola Jokic made contact with the governor of the Phoenix Suns, bringing into question, will he be suspended for Game 5 of that playoff series? We're also going to talk about that and some rumors from around the NBA in regards to some upcoming free agents. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
Welcome to another episode of NBA Central. I'm your host here, Haize. Right off the top, if you want to follow me, you can do so at CEO Haize. If you want to follow the pod, you can do so at NBA Show Pod on Twitter. And if you want to send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. But let's go ahead and get into the content for today. So many of you guys probably saw by now, but Nikola Jokic made contact with the Phoenix Suns governor / owner in Matt Ashibia. And so it didn't look like anything too egregious to me personally. Now, I may just have a different view on that than what was said. Tony Brothers, again, was the referee during that. And Jokic said this, Tony Brothers told me I was elbowing the fan, but the fan put the hand on me first. So I thought the league's supposed to protect us or whatever, but maybe I'm wrong. So we'll see. I also added this. He's a fan, isn't he? He cannot influence the game by holding the ball. So, hey, that's the question around. Was what Nikola Jokic did egregious enough for him to be suspended in Game 5 of a key playoff series? It's probably one of the more exciting playoff series in this offseason. And so, a lot of questions there. Nikola Jokic, a former two-time MVP, did not three-peat this season. But, hey, it's all the questions around. Now, Denver coach Mike Malone also put in this. He said that he thought it was crazy that Jokic got a technical foul. When asked if the fact that it was the Suns owner that made the difference, he says this: I don't give a shit. I don't really care. Now, for his credit, Matt Ashibia also had this to add in when it came down to asking if Nikola Jokic should be suspended. He said that he shouldn't. He says that he has tons of respect for Nikola Jokic. And he said this should be and is the only story. Suspending or fining anyone over last night's incident would not be right. I have a lot of respect for Nikola Jokic, and I don't want to see anything like that. Excited for Game 5. Go Suns. So really good that he has that perspective that he does, because, listen, in the heat of the game, in anything, anything's possible. Yes, you can't go around elbowing fans, but to Nikola Jokic's point, contact was made with him first, and when you're in the heat of that spirit of competition, anything is possible. And so, like I said, it didn't seem like it was anything too extremely egregious to me to where we should be talking about a suspension, in my opinion. But my opinion really doesn't mean much. I'm just a guy talking about the basketball here in his home studio, so it really doesn't mean what I say really much. It really matters what Adam Silver and the governors at the NBA really do think in regards to this. And I'm sure they're reviewing everything. They're going to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, probably reach out, make some contacts to officials, players, all in the situation really before they levy down their decision. But best believe, once they do make their decision, expect the video to be uploaded here at NBA Central almost immediately following, because this could be a big decision in the playoff series that has been fun, and it could really determine a lot for that playoff series as well. If you're missing a former MVP in your next upcoming game, listen, it could get ugly. And so, while the Denver Nuggets, I have liked how their team has performed outside of just Jokic in this playoff series. There's been years prior where if Jokic really wasn't just being on 10 the whole time, that it got ugly. They've been playing pretty well. And so they play again on Tuesday in Denver. So if they're missing Jokic in that game, hey, man, that could be a big table being turned as this series is at least headed 6, but I think it's going to go 7. So we'll see what that ends up meaning for both all parties in this. I, for one, hope that he's not suspended. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think Nikola Jokic should be suspended for the incident in Game 4? But let's go ahead and get into the next topic for today. So we want to look at some of the rumors that are coming out about potential free agents around the NBA. We got word that Kristaps Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma are both expected to opt out of their deals with the Washington Wizards to re-up for longer-term deals. And that's not really too much surprise there. It's let me say this. It's surprising in the sense that it seems like the Washington Wizards are just content being middle of the pack. Like, that's what they're going to be. They need some wholesale changes. Now, one could say with that as well, it's on the players. There are player options, so if they do opt out, that's really on the players, and you don't want to risk losing them for nothing. So you may go ahead and re-up them and maybe look to move one, if not both of them, at the trade deadline, which may net you more back because then they're locked into more longer-term contracts and they aren't potentially one-year rentals at that point. Now, that would limit them from being able to trade them this offseason, but it could open up some things at the trade deadline for the Washington Wizards. I really look at that team with the Wizards, and, to me, they really don't have a clear path to improve. And, that as a team, even though that's not my fan base, is not my team at all, but that's one of the worst places to be in sports, is like to have guys locked in to pretty high contracts and really just be middle of the pack with no straightforward way to improve. Health, maybe things like that, but I guess we'll see with the Washington Wizards, but it seems like they ain't going to be re-upping both their big men. Next up is another big man in Jakob Poeltl. Now, he seems like all but a lock to re-sign with the Toronto Raptors. Eric Pincus from Bleacher Report says, per multiple sources around the league, the Toronto Raptors are a lock to bring back center Jakob Poeltl, who the team initially drafted at number 9 in 2016. So, and it's expected that Poeltl's going to re-sign for about $13 to $15 million per year, around that area. When you look at what the Raps gave up for Poeltl, it makes sense. Yeah, I do expect that team to maybe have some roster turnover in this offseason. But Jakob Poeltl, when he came in, averaging 13.1 points, 9.1 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 1.2 steals, and 1.3 blocks, and 62 overall percent shooting, that's crazy. Listen, you don't want to overlook that when it comes to the Toronto Raptors and the impact that he had. The Toronto Raptors as a team also scored 14.1 more points per 100 possessions when he was on the floor. That is a massive impact from a player that you just do not want to let walk away for nothing. So definitely to look out for that. Some re-signings as we march forward and get closer to free agency, some key things there. The next rumor that came up is something that, listen, it may be true. And if it is true, listen, it's a young team. But Mark Stein says that the Pistons are the team to watch when it comes to signing Dillon Brooks this season. Now, they do have some salary cap this season, some cap space. They have a projected $25.5 million in cap space. So given the fact that team has a lot of young starters and, some role players that are set to become free agents this offseason, I guess it makes sense for Brooks to be on that list, but it still raises some questions for me. Like, you have a young team, an impressionable team, a team that's still trying to build that identity. Now, I'm sure they're going to do their due diligence. They're going to do their research before they really bring in Dillon Brooks to that roster. But the biggest question is that, if they do bring him in, does he negatively impact and influence the young players that are going to for sure be parts of your future and hopefully once you start winning again? Or do you look at what he does on the basketball court, which, like I've said before, Dillon Brooks is not a terrible basketball player. And I hate that the conversation has kind of gone to like he's a bad basketball player. He's not. He's not perfect either. He's not necessarily the defender that some people paint him out to be. He doesn't shoot the ball too efficiently. But the biggest things is those character concerns. And if you have a front office and a team and a coach that is equipped to really deal with those character concerns, I can absolutely see him paying off for a team signing him. But you have to make sure that you have that area, those things together. If you don't have those together, that can be something that comes in and really changes the whole groundwork that you're trying to lay for your organization. So whatever team ends up bringing in Dillon Brooks, regardless of what it is or what team it is, you have to really look at and hope that team is really insulated well enough to really kind of counteract some of those character concerns with a player like Dillon Brooks. Like I said, it's not like on the basketball court, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. But it's enough questions there that if, like I said, and you have to wonder if you can get a player with less character concerns that has similar output that you can probably even pay less as well, but then you don't have to worry about that character fit. You don't have to worry about trying to manage a player's personality. So I'm sure that's what teams are going to be weighing when it comes to Dillon Brooks this offseason. I'm not going to be surprised if he gets a deal, though, because when you look at what he does defensively as a two-way player, being solid, not great, not amazing at any one thing, but being solid in some areas on the basketball court, some teams, and maybe the Detroit Pistons are one. I also look at the Charlotte Hornets maybe as another one that could do something. there as they look. But, if they brings Miles Bridges back, so, they may not worry about that. But that is a team as well that could look to do some things. Now, before we go, I want to talk about some teams right now that may have complete overhauls of their roster before we head into next season. And that's the last topic for today. And the first one up that I'm going to talk about, especially with what is going on in this playoff series, even though they won a great game last night, is the Philadelphia 76ers, right? With James Harden and his player option and the talk and rumors about him potentially wanting to go back to Houston and being some interest there, if that does happen, right, and especially with Harris's expiring contract as well, it could be some possibilities also that they make some moves this offseason to really try to overhaul that roster, maybe even make a blockbuster deal to put more long-term talent around Joel Embiid while also maximizing Tyrese Maxey in that lineup. So I really do look at that. They're definitely maybe looking to do some things there. It really depends on how the season ends for them. It's really kind of difficult to gauge with them still being in the playoffs. Another team that's kind of in a similar position as them is the Los Angeles Lakers as well. Seeing what they end up doing, they can clear considerable cap space. There's been some rumor of them really going after Kyrie Irving. If that ends up happening, they would have to clear some things. Austin Reeves and his cap situation, D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, they have some decisions that they need to make down there. They also have some salary that they can use to match if they do decide to do a sign-and trade, some things like that. But I expect the Lakers really, what they've done with depth this season, right? Their depth has really propelled them into what we're seeing from them in this playoff run. And I hope that they don't give that up chasing for a superstar. And I really don't. Did they not learn from Russ a little bit, right? And so I hope that they've done that. But if they do add Kyrie, especially when you look at that point, long-term it being Kyrie, AD, because LeBron, we'll see what goes on with LeBron. You can do some worse things there. But another team that I think may have some considerable roster overhaul if they decide to do some things is the New Orleans Pelicans. Look out for them, right? While they could absolutely run it back. They can bet on health. They can hope that with a more healthy Zion that season, they can do some things. They don't have true cap space, but when you look at what they can do in moving to CJ McCollum, something like that, they don't have a huge sample size with Zion, Ingram, and McCollum, so they could very well look to hold on to that. That trio of players have only played 10 games together this past season, so definitely could be there. But maybe they could look to do some things. That's another team that could look to maybe make some moves on the roster. You guys can let me know what you think down below. Any other teams? This would be a growing list as we go through free agency and offseason as well. But that's it. That's my time for today. Thank you for tuning in to NBA Central. You can follow me at CEO Haize. You can follow the show at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for mailbag episodes, 773-270-2799. That's it for me for today. I will see you guys the next time I feel like making a video, probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.